Today is Monday, December 7th, 2020. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. First on our agenda, we can go down our usual release statuses, starting with 119. I think the main things remaining are to look at the CSI proxy image build issue, as well as updating the docs for ephemeral local volume or generic ephemeral volumes and CSI storage capacity. It looks like Patrick has PRs out for that. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I created those today.
All
One
right.
is actually the one for ephemeral volumes is actually based on an older PR from Lewis. He had some updates pending but never really got merged because the last mile was missing. One line change was never done. So I picked that one and updated a little bit also to include generic ephemeral. That's what the PR is about.
Awesome. Great. I can help take a look at that. So that's all we have left for 119. Moving on to 120. First up is archiving the Flex and Fiber Channel driver repos. I am starting the ball on that one. I updated the readmes to mark it as deprecated, and then I have to go ping the GitHub admins to actually go and archive the repos, and we should be good to go after that. Next up is setting the read-only flag when you provision a volume with a data source as read-only. I think Humble has a PR out for this. I think there are a couple of outstanding comments, but I haven't heard back from him if he's going to have time to look at this. I'll ping him again and see if we can get a hold of him. I guess, Haman, do you know if he's around?
No, for sure. He is in different team.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I took a look. I think Zing reviewed it as well. So yeah, I can ping him and find
Okay,
out.
sounds good. Thank you. Next up, deployment without central controller.
Yeah, I do have a PR ready. I think it's actually now in a mergeable state, pending review by Cheng. I think you assigned him last week. I did scale tests on 100 nodes and it's looking good. I'm now going to run it also on a larger scale, but I think the PR is useful even without those higher node counts, because the scalability question mostly comes into play, I think, when doing immediate binding. And that is not what VPR recommends. So the documentation for the new feature explicitly says that ideally storage classes should be using late binding, and it's mostly just for feature parity, but it also supports immediate binding.
Awesome. Cool. I'll ping Cheng to start taking a look at this. All right. Next up is switching to KLOG v2. Let's see. Yeah, there's still a couple of PRs out pending, I think, for resizer, snapshotter, and maybe the provisioner. I forget if the external provisioner had all of the changes that we wanted.
I think it's complete, yeah.
Oh, there's one more change. I think it's renaming the arguments.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, well, it's technically complete. It might not, the feature itself might need further changes, but at least the update to KLOG v2 is complete.
Okay, I'll add this one here.
Yeah, the issue is turning into a larger make all of our sidecars
think-
consistent
Oops.
and
I think you have no, yeah, I think that's a limit.
Oh,
Yeah, I was trying to add my PR in there and then I found it's out of room.
that's weird. Okay. At least, so there's still at least one more change we want to at least make the arguments consistent. So I'm going to uncheck that until we merge the other one, so that we don't forget. I'll have to ping Deep and Jing on the Windows repos. So those are still outstanding. But I think the remaining ones, we all have PRs out for it. So I think we're okay from that aspect. I guess we need to double check that the node driver register is using the same arguments. We'll just double check that. Okay. Next we have volume snapshots.
Yeah, so I think, so we have this PR, the update controller based on snapshot V1. I addressed comments from you and Shangqian, if you can take a look again. Yeah, so that's the main one. And then after this one, I think there's one PR I need to pin Shangqian to take a look. That's a bug fix. And then also I need to update the client to before. So I have a PR pending for that. I'm waiting for this one to emerge first and then I will update that. I think if we get all of those in, then we are ready to cut a release, I think. So
All right.
three PRs plus that the KLOG thing. That one I already updated.
Okay.
So yeah, so maybe 4 PRs. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess I think that's it. The remaining things for 120. Kubernetes 120 is being released, I think, today or tomorrow or Wednesday. So I think we should try targeting to release the sidecars this week as well. So I think we can, once we finish all this KLOG stuff, then we can start doing the usual sidecar release stuff. All right.
Do we
Yeah.
need to rebase Clientgo and these libraries?
Sorry, rebase what?
Clientgo.
Is there
We need to
anything?
update to 1.20? Do we?
Is there anything in
Yeah.
Clientgo we need?
Well, bug fixes and V1 snapshot API.
There isn't
Well,
a
it's not there.
V1
It's not
snapshot
there.
API.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
But yeah, just bug fixes.
Are there any bug fixes that look interesting?
I don't know. Nobody knows. Just
But
I mean,
I think that
find it better to release everything with the same libraries.
it's not just Clientgo. Basically, all of our dependencies are a little bit stale, I suspect, unless we actually actively update them.
I believe all the sidecars are using Clientgo 119
Yeah,
at the
I think we
moment.
are. Yeah, at least relatively up to date.
Although I did,
So,
I think when I was updating the KLOG stuff for external provisioner, I also, oh wait, was it external provisioner? Maybe not. Never mind. Ignore me. I think it was the NFS driver. That was out of date. I guess we can wait for the KLOG update. So then that means more realistically we'll be releasing earlier next week, because it'll take a day or so after the Kubernetes release for a new Clientgo to be cut, and then we have to go update all the sidecars. All right. Let's see. I guess I can add that to do. Oops. What happened?
Can we make that update general dependencies and not just Clientgo, or is that too risky? I'm not sure how much relevant
Everything,
other.
right? Not just
Yeah,
client,
I would argue that we
everything.
should update anything with go mod, go get update -u, whatever the syntax is for get the latest patch release. And for Clientgo, it's a bit special because we have to bump, or we have to use the script, but everything else may also need to be updated.
Okay. I guess that should be fine. Hopefully nothing breaks.
There are some tools that scan libraries for security vulnerability. I don't know if we should enable those in these repos so that we don't end up with dependencies that are problematic.
Yeah, I've got some experience with such tools, and so far with Go modules, it hasn't been a very informative experience, to say the least. They usually don't know about dependencies or bugs in individual modules, simply because the common CVE database that everyone looks at just doesn't track the projects that we depend on. So these tools typically give you a very good score without knowing anything about what your dependencies really are. I'm not sure, perhaps there is something better for Go, but at least that has been my experience.
All right. Moving on to the agenda, peers that need attention.
Yeah, the first one is a simple pending PR against external provisioner. It just needs someone to look at it. That's all. It's part of my outcome, or one observation from the scale testing, that external provisioner was doing one get per volume when using, I think it was immediate, no, it was late binding, because it needs to get the node object. And that can be avoided by using the provisioner that the external provisioner command, a binary itself already has.
Okay, sounds pretty straightforward. All right. Next up is the Smok Driver.
Yeah, I just want to discuss how to proceed, or I point out that I did some more work last week. I replaced my prototype, which was based on SOCART view, the general purpose utility, with some specific code in CSI test in the Smok driver itself, where it runs a proxy for the Unix domain socket. So that's the last PR actually on this list. I think it's safe to include that. It's basically one command line argument, a very little additional code. But anyway, that's the one about CSI test. And then I have a pull request against Kubernetes, where I'm using that new feature in the CSI test. So because it does depend on the new CSI test or Smok driver image, it can't be merged right now, but I just want to make sure where we are with that and whether it's something that we should target for, say, for 121. So it's currently in a state where it works. It passes all the mock volume tests. So it's complete in that sense. The sticky point is conformance testing, whether that actually gets in our way when we want to promote some of these tests, or whether it helps. And that's where I'm asking or looking for feedback. I still don't know what the official opinion is about making the port forward tests conformant, part of a conformance suite. But I also looked a little bit around, and I noticed that the Smok driver tests and other test suite volume test suites depend on kubectl exec, or the corresponding API call, and that also isn't part of current conformance testing. So either way, if we want to promote these tests, we do have to consider what that means for conformance and features that we depend on. Like the kubectl exec, that is technically very similar to port forwarding. It needs to establish a stream connection through the API server. And I looked, the corresponding test exists, but isn't marked as conformance.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, we definitely need to make sure any feature that our test is using underneath is also reasonable to add to a conformance test. So I think that's a good point to bring up, and we should clarify that with the conformance folks.
Yeah. And perhaps I'm not sure whether it's the conformance folks or the owner of these features. But those, they at least API SIG machinery, when I asked, were silent on port forward at least. It looks like one of those technical debt things that were developed at some point and don't really have an owner nowadays. That's my suspicion.
I mean, we can bring it up with, I mean, we can bring this up at the next conformance meeting, and we can also reach out to the relevant SIG owners that own these other features we're dependent on.
Yeah. One other possibility is that with my PR, we keep the current testing as it is and just make it possible to write new tests using the new functionality. That may be a more worthwhile short-term goal. Then we don't get into problems with conformance, because the new tests, for example, for storage capacity, those will not be targeted for conformance testing anytime soon, I guess. And I remember that the last time I looked at it, I pretty much was too much limited by the JavaScript hooks that exist to implement some kind of testing for that particular feature. So I would need the new functionality with embedded callbacks to do some better testing.
That also sounds like a potential good middle ground so that we can progress on both fronts.
Yeah. In that case, I would like to get some feedback on questions that I have in my pending PR on the API, how to do the callbacks, for example, because it's now all in Go, but it's a bit more verbose than it used to be in JavaScript. Both has pros and cons. You could do a one-line hook in JavaScript, but then you had to understand the JavaScript syntax and so on, and you were more limited. Now with Go, you have more boilerplate code, and I'm not sure whether that is good enough as it is, or whether some ideas that I have for improving that are worthwhile. So if someone has some time and interest in that topic and then could look at VPR, that would be useful.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. All right. Any other topics for today? All right, then we'll end the meeting. Thanks, everyone.